The human body is such an extraordinarily intricate set of overlapping, interwoven, and even competing frequencies that sorting through them can feel overwhelming. Yet, this stunningly complex reality is exactly the background and foundation upon which every human infant must build its construct of reality. And everyone has multiple capacities for perceiving these resonances at all times. It begins with simply acknowledging what you feel. Yes, I feel good, fluid, easy, congruent, available in a relaxed but alert way. No, things don't feel right, they feel dissonant. Something's off, not resonant with you or with other factors in the environment. Or this is miraculous, uncommonly resonant to the point of oneness and pure good feeling. You're in business, striding your way from meeting to meeting, office to office. On any given day, you encounter dozens of people of all shapes and attitudes. You begin to note with increasing puzzlement the pulled down mouths, drawn up shoulders, puckered foreheads, and rigid stances of your colleagues. Young retailers whose eyes won't meet yours. Middle aged vendors with shoulders hunched up around their ears, walking as if their hips and ankles hurt. Longtime CEOs, gazing absently with eyebrows drawn together and head tipped slightly back or to one side as if disconnected from the rest of their body. Body types and postures reflect as many emotional states and degrees of presence as there are people. You're an artist, a sculptor, a cook, a writer, an equestrian. You've always been acutely aware of the aesthetics of your work, the relationship of tools, instruments, and delight in the creation of fellow artists. You also feel a need for a way to talk about the zone, the beauty, even excellence that transcends either mere technique or academic criticism. To acknowledge more explicitly and invite more consistently the mysterious combination of awareness that produces success through you. You sense a force that enlarges you with one pure intent, and it fills you with gratitude. What is it? Sometimes you focus on the physical level, sometimes on the emotional, sometimes on the mental. The magnificent truth related to these levels of consciousness is that all of them are at work all the time. Even when you don't realize it, because you are only focusing on one or another aspect of any given situation, you're still busy registering physical, emotional, and mental responses to stimuli all the time because you are built to do so. You are built this way. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. Today is December 5th, 2022. It is a Monday, which on Palgoan, as you know, is a Mover Monday. Here on Palgoan, every Monday is a Mover Monday, in which we'll be discussing the relationship between you and yourself. Today, we are discussing the body's map of consciousness, Volume 1, Consciousness. What we just read was an excerpt from that, a little bit of an intro of what we're going to be talking about today. Here on this Mover Monday. Good morning. It is 9 a.m. How art thou doing? Can you believe that we are already here on Monday, December 5th, 2022? Hope you're feeling so well out there. Hope you're taking some time to stay self-aware in that moment. Allow us this great podcast you have. Thank you for joining. Allow this podcast to blend into the symphony of sounds that is all around you, always staying present, even if you are enveloped into the content with which we hope that you are today. Allow us to blend into the symphony of sounds around you as we stay present. One way you can do this, one way you can practice this is by switching your hearing awareness to 7 different things in the room. Listening to the front of your shins as if they're the speakers that are creating those sounds. We are listening to 7 different things in the room or outside the room. Is that a bird outside? Is that the rain outside? Is that your heart beating? Is that a cup sliding against your lips? Is that your hand tapping on the keyboard? wherever you are, whenever thou art, whether you are here live or watching us in a video on demand, a VOD somewhere there in the future on YouTube. I want to thank you for being here. Welcome back to another episode of Palgawan. Today is, in fact, Mover Monday, December 5th, 2022. We shall be right back after this short break. If any of this seems interesting to you, stay tuned. You dancers, you artists, you teachers out there, equestrians, cooks, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break to talk about, you're experiencing all these different levels of consciousness, physical, mental, emotional, even beyond. But you're experiencing all of them at the same time, despite what your focus is on. You're reacting to stimuli all around you in various levels of consciousness, all kinds of levels of consciousness, all at the same time. Why? Because you are built to do so, and we will talk shortly about that when we get back from this short break. Thank you for being here. Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll be right back after this short break here on Palgawan. You. Welcome back. I hope you're feeling oh so well wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. It is a Monday, December 5th, 2022. Can you believe that we're already here? Welcome back. This is a Mover Monday. Today we shall be talking about one of our favorite books, The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1, Movement by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, and Julie J. Nichols. You can find the link for this book in the recommended book reading list in the information down below. Also, in the recommended book reading list break that we have. How are you doing? How are you doing? I hope it's good. I hope it's well. There's a little bit of an announcement. We're gonna be trying to move this show to an earlier time block. Kind of wanted it available more early in the mornings. It seems like a 6 a.m. thing, you know? As we wake up and stretch our self-awareness like a muscle. So look forward to that. One of the coming weeks in December, we shall start that new time block. Probably gonna be around 6 a.m. So for those of you who have been wanting an episode earlier, possibly. Also, some possibly new exciting announcements on how we're going to be running the show, but we'll talk about that in the future. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you thank you to the new subscribers. Thank you, Aragorn, for the new subscription. Any new viewers, welcome, welcome, welcome. We did get some questions after last week. There was no episode on Thursday or Friday last week, so I apologize for any inconvenience that may have caused. We did get some questions regarding what the candle in front of the lips is all about, feeling the front of your shins. Well, these are body instructions for your body's awareness so that using these body instructions and where to put your awareness, your body can learn to align with the stabilizing muscles again and let the rest of the body relax where the muscles don't need to be activated, and sometimes they actually pull away from the body's ability to stabilize itself and feel one in the moment and receive breaths instead of forcing ourselves and exerting effort to take breaths, which are less efficient anyway. As simply just aligning the body will give you that good breath. So if you would practice with me, please say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Again, if you would, just say it with me as we use some body magic tricks to make us feel so good from the inside out. Say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just a flickering candle, and you're just imagining a flickering candle in front of your lips. You're trying to not put out, with the intention of trying to not put out. The awareness of this candle in front of your lips and the intention to not put it out activates all these nice stabilizing muscles in the front of the body that we don't often use, but are 100% necessary in order to pull the body forward, allowing the weight of the body to deliver its weight into the front of the spine, which is the weight-bearing portion of your spine. As you know, not the back, as you can see from the diagram behind me. Back is meant to house the nerves and allow for complex, flexible movement, and the front of the spine is designed to bear all this weight of the body. As we allow our weight to go into these blue lines, into the sit bones. Remember, we do not sit on our legs. As we one more time say it with me, pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Good. And you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling. You're just pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And simply observe your sense of self. See if any adjustments are made, if there are any muscles that feel like they need to relax in order for this awareness to become made true. Allow it to do so. We use very slow and gentle movements to observe the sense of self with precision, as is so often demanded us to do the opposite by life and society. Something in life and society that's the last thing life right now and society wants you to do is sit still. But this is what we want to achieve so that we can be in the moment, so that we can be at balance again. Balance, something that is so universal that you can use balance to describe like anything, and we kind of just know it intuitively because it is such an important part of not just our experience and the way we experience the outside world, but manifestly in our own bodies. Balance is just known to be something highly coveted, highly wanted. You can talk about balance in colors. You can talk about balance in music. You could talk about even balance when it comes to tasting coffee, for example. You could describe coffee as having a balanced taste. No one knows what the heck that means, and yet we somehow intuitively know already. It's very hard to describe balance, but we can feel balance and we understand the consequences of balance. So we want to return to balance and feel so good, not by forcing it, as that kind of goes against the philosophy of balance, which is that it should stand on its own. We don't want to force the balance. No one can tell you, no one can convince you, no one convince anybody of anything. You can only reveal to each other the truth, and people are either ready to hear it or not. They're ready to see it or not. This podcast is not for everyone, but for those of you, especially artists, dancers, cooks, people who pay attention to aesthetics, this may be for you. Myself, I've been dancing for a long time in life and have always been searching for some kind of literature to talk about this state, quote unquote, that artists, I mean, even in here, health caregivers, CEOs, teachers, are sensitive to this quote unquote zone, right? And we read other self-help books, and the reason why the Body's Map of Consciousness Volume 1 movement is so beautiful, so amazing compared to other self-help books. If you have read other self-help books, you might notice that they ask you to align with a higher power often, and yet don't really go into description of what this higher power is. Well, I love this book right here, Body's Map of Consciousness, because it goes onto the track that many of us have already kind of felt intuitively, is that the body itself is this magical device. Notice how sometimes when you're sick, your body can recover immediately. And then other times, in other people's cases, when they're sick, their recovery can take forever, ages. It seems hopeless, and yet somehow motivation can somehow change the body's ability to recover. So we know that the energy that the body generates is not all it's cracked up to be. It's not this two-dimensional readable line or graph, but rather something that's more 3D, like balance itself. And so reading other self-help books, they might talk about aligning to a higher power, allowing the good energy to flow through you. And while this book does implicate how that can happen in your body, this book does this wonderful thing, which is acknowledge that the body is where this is all happening. The body is this beautifully designed being that can either be harmonious with itself or dissonant with itself, and that is up to our choice and our willing, and whether or not we have the courage or willingness to explore our own bodies, as these bodies create all these experiences. There's more to life than most systems will acknowledge, as we read from the book. There must be more, and if there is, then there should be more to you. All right. Quote from the book: "What are levels of consciousness? You're actually quite familiar with this concept. Bodies, as in, I can tell that my physical and emotional bodies are interdependent, because when I'm sad, I cry. Parts, as in, there's a part of her that wants to marry and another part that wants to remain single. States, as in, my mental state was quite confused. Vibrations, as in, he gave off a loving vibration. Field, as in, if we let that degree of conflict into the field, we may never reach resolution. A quote-unquote level of consciousness in this context isn't esoteric or etheric construct you have to be a psychic to experience. As you move naturally from one aspect of your life to another, you can change the dominance and relative proportions of awareness through which you view and filter your experiences. Sometimes you focus on the physical level, sometimes on the emotional, sometimes on the mental. And here's the kicker as we return to it. The magnificent truth related to these levels of consciousness is that all of them are at work all the time. Even when you don't realize it, because you are focusing on only one or another aspect of any given situation, you're still busy registering physical, emotional, and mental responses to stimuli all the time, because you are built to do so. Unquote. Marvelous. 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 As we are staying aware in that godlike experience that you are, as you are staying aware in that present place that you are, wherever you are at, not getting sucked in or getting zoned in or enveloped into any other task or even this podcast long enough for you to escape your body. We want to stay in that body that you are in. And the thing that I love about this book so much is that, of course, there's higher power. Of course, we notice this kind of connection to a higher power. Of course, that there is this larger energy that we know that we attune to. But what is the tuning fork? What is allowing us to align with this higher power? Humans aren't just these like separated beings that are disconnected from the universe. Like we're just these special beings that we just look outside and great things are coming from the heavens, or we just observe math in space, or we just observe things happening around us. Humans are the great thing. Just as much as we acknowledge there's this higher power that governs all of nature, humans are part of that nature. You are part of that nature. Just as much as there are wonderful and great energies that you think that you can observe in the outside world, all of that energy and all that great stuff that humans observe We're not just these outside observers who like, wow, there's gifts in the universe that we can just like reach down and attain. No, you are the universe as well. The universe is what spit you out as well. The universe is what spits you out as well. What is these great energies, everything, all this greatness that we see in the universe? Guess what? All that greatness is what the human being is. As you are also part of this web of the universe, we just so happen to be lucky enough to have a consciousness to observe it. But we are part of that great design. So any of this higher power that we are reading books about telling us to align with this higher power, it exists within everybody. Not just because it's in your hearts like a Disney movie, but because your design itself was built out of all this material, out of all this great energy. It is that great energy that manifested in order for our bodies to become these balanced skeletons. I'll go deeper into this, but you are built to encapsulate a universe yourself. Every person is a universe. How do we know this? There's infinity happening to you at all times. Why? Because it's not just the physical repercussions that the world has on you, but your mental reactions to the stimuli, your emotional reactions to the stimuli, your spiritual reaction to the stimuli that's happening around you. And all of those are happening in your body all at once, and you're experiencing all of those all at once. You're just choosing to focus on certain ones at a time. You're choosing to focus on your bodies or parts of your body or the state that your body's in or the vibration that your body's in or the field around you. You're experiencing all of those, and those are just a few examples of those levels of consciousness that we pay attention to. You're experiencing all those all at once. So not only are you experiencing this life as it happens to you one moment to the next moment, but you're experiencing like an onion skin, like 6, 7, or 8 or more versions of that same instance that's happening to you because you're observing it on a body's level of consciousness, on parts of the body's levels of consciousness, the state of your body's levels of consciousness, the vibration level of consciousness, the field level of consciousness. Your consciousness is reacting to the stimuli that's happening to your physical body, but it's reacting on levels all at the same time, and you can choose to which one you are aware of. Again, even when you don't realize it because you're focusing only on one or another aspect of any given situation, you're still busy registering physical, emotional, and mental responses to stimuli all the time because you are built to do so. You are built this way. Even though you think that you're experiencing this one moment right now, you're experiencing it in many levels of consciousness, and based on your previous experiences or your willingness to do so in your own body, you are choosing to focus on only certain levels of that consciousness at a time. And then we sometimes blend them. Sometimes we isolate one harder than another time. But you're experiencing of all of those at the same time. This wonderfulness in the worlds that we choose to observe, this greater, higher power that if we look with soft focus on the world, we can begin to see more of and learn to align with so that we can work less for more payout in the world by swimming with the stream. This higher power that we are told to align to, attune to, exists within you. That ability to align with that exists within you. How? By virtue of the design of our body in which we are experiencing all of those levels of consciousness at once, and we can choose to focus on certain ones at a time. And what happens if we're able to align all of those levels of consciousness onto this one moment? This higher power sometimes is seen as something that we just like, that we only interact with mentally. Like we simply have to think like, there's a higher power. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there's a higher power. So I can relinquish my responsibilities because there's a higher power. There is a higher power. It is acting within you right now. The higher power that is the fact that you're experiencing all these consciousness, these levels of consciousness all at once. This higher power than any one of our individual choices of level of consciousness that we usually talk about at a time. We usually talk about just mental. Oh, okay, let's discuss ideas. We usually talk about, oh, just emotional. Let's discuss our feelings. Or we talk about like, oh, only our bodies. So we'll talk about like our physical state, how wounded or how fatigued we feel. Not realizing that we have the array of all those levels of consciousness all at the same time. And that choice of all of those reactions to stimuli and all those levels of consciousness is this higher power, this order that our design of our body allows us to feel these different levels of consciousness. The fact that our body can do that is the higher power that we are acknowledging, as opposed to just talking about, oh, your physical body is going to get repaired. Just believe that there's a higher power. Rather, the fact that you have a physical body, you have parts of your physical body, you have states of that physical body that is experiencing based on that situation. You have vibrations that your body is giving off based on that situation of like how you want to move. You have the field, that situation of like where you are at and how that's affecting you. All happening in response to that physical situation that you are in. This wide array of states of consciousness is this higher power. Not any of them individually, but the fact that you are experiencing all of them and you have the ability to choose, dip, dodge, duck, dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge your way through them is the higher power. Is the higher power. And so we can talk more about how this is happening. Your physical body that allows this to happen. Not that there's this like crazy force above you that is like this like floating man in the sky. But rather, each human body, just by the way of your design, is experiencing the greatness in this universe by design on multiple levels of consciousness. And what we do with that decides whether or not we shall align with this greater power. Shall we try to compartmentalize and dissect and what's the word I'm looking for? Separate? Should we try to deny and be at conflict with this design, the fact that we're experiencing all of these levels of consciousness? Are we going to try to deny that? Are we going to try to deny that we're experiencing all those levels of consciousness at once? And then try to compartmentalize and split our attention and try to make our levels of consciousness go in every which way? Or are we going to recognize, or are we going to align with the idea of the fact that we do experience all those levels of consciousness? And it's not so much about whether we are doing it or not. Your body is experiencing all those. Or is it closer to, now what do we do with it? Is it closer to, how do we focus that? How do we funnel those? How do we become more aware of this design of ours? If you would say it with me, pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. As we return from this short break, we'll talk more about how this is a good thing. How you're experiencing all these crazy levels of consciousness for every situation you interact with, all at the same time, but how that's a good thing. Why? Because you're built to do so. I'll be right back after this short break. Here on Padawan. we have a recommended book reading list. If you feel like you have a hard time understanding yourself at this stage in your life, check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. It's an aggressive title, but a very meaningful book when it comes to understanding the self, both men and women, masculinity and femininity. So you'll see it first in yourself, then throughout the world, so it brings peace through understanding. Do you suffer from a mental illness that you want to actually do something about? Or do you just want to be able to change your patterns and behaviors in life? Check out that book with the girl with holding her hand up. It's an amazing book. The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1, Movement, by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, and Julie J. Nichols. Do you have body or neck aches throughout the day or throughout the night? And gone to chiropractors and just been frustrated with not being able to get a permanent fix? Check out the purple book, The Structures of Movement and Breathing, by Barbara Conable, and Anatomy of the Voice by Theodore Dimon for a more detailed look. There, that book on the left, and take charge in getting your relief back. All these books are highly recommended and pretty short and just freaking phenomenal books. Beyond impressive, incredible, ridiculous, awesome, stupendous, prodigious. Physical states, or physical level, emotional level, and mental level. You're experiencing levels of consciousness like bodies, like the body that you're in, the parts of the body, the state that the body is in, vibrations, and the field that your body's in. And on each of those levels of consciousness, in each of those places, you're also able to experience physical level or emotional level or mental level of consciousness. Kind of insane that this is all happening at the same time. And when I was reading this, personally, the example earlier about how, you know, you're an artist or a sculptor or a cook or a writer, an equestrian, and you've always been acutely aware of the aesthetics of your work. I was personally super interested when he was talking about the zone, beauty, even quote unquote excellence, just that kind of that zone that most people are aware of that just kind of exists, this flow state, as some people would call it. Also, I was really drawn to the example about how young retailers whose eyes won't meet yours. It's like a question that I'm sure a lot of us had growing up, just like tossing it around, like, which eye do you look at when you make eye contact? Do you look at one eye, or do you look between the eyes, or do you look at the other eye? Do you look at the nose? Like, eye contact has always been something I've been kind of interested in. It's just like an interesting topic, like, because I'm sure everyone has like a different approach, right? And so young retailers whose eyes won't meet yours, that really caught my attention, seeing as most self-help books are just kind of like platitudes and just validating your emotional state without any much work, and just never sat right with me, because I mean, it has to take work. There's no way that anybody gets better without work. You know, like, nothing in life is free. And so this book to talk so like tough love and like realistic about what's actually going on, like people who can't make eye contact, you know, just a lot of body language truisms. Like, a lot of self-help books are afraid to call out what is right and wrong, saying, you know, whatever's right is what makes you like, a lot of them have a hard time talking about what is right and wrong, in terms of like, they kind of just like say you're right about everything. Like, oh, you didn't get along with this person. Okay, well, you were right about them not valuing you. And it's definitely not, there's nothing you can do. It's like a lot about just shifting blame away from you to other people, which is totally opposite of what you would think would work, is because you can only control yourself. So taking hyper responsibility over the experiences that you have in your life makes a lot more sense. And it always jived a lot more with me, thinking that, like, okay, yeah, there could be other people going through stuff and that might affect your life, but the solution can't be to just cast off everyone as wrong. And even if that was a solution, it can't be the best solution because you can't do anything about it. I love this book, The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1 Movement. I love this book and body mapping because it takes that concept of taking responsibility for your own life and the good that you get, and it takes it to like the extreme, like uh not not disagreeing that the life has struggles and that people are cruel sometimes, but rather focusing your attention on what you can do about your experience and possibly how your experiences are affecting the experiences that come back to you. So, to read further in this book, it goes like this, quote unquote, a simple analogy. It's talking about how we are built. You are built to do so. You are built to feel all of these levels of consciousness all at the same time. A simple analogy can be found in the study of genetics. It's commonly held that each gene and many gene combinations on your particular DNA map predispose you to a huge variety of tendencies, forms, and experiences, from the color of your eyes to your susceptibility to emotional and physical illnesses, and even your manner of death. You have, in potential, the capacity of hundreds, if not an infinite number, of possibilities in the way your life plays out. Because many factors, some of them internal and some external, determine which of these potentials are activated, you express only a small part of those tendencies at any one time, and indeed in any one lifetime. Nevertheless, the potential of all of them exists all the time, throughout your life. In exactly the same way, every site on your physical structure that's distinct from any other site, your left index knuckle, the lateral collateral ligament of your right knee, your duodenum, I think that's how it's pronounced, duodenum, your third cervical vertebrae, has a distinct association with one or more specific other levels of consciousness, which are all continuously operating. And from the moment of your conception, any and all of these may be associated in your consciousness with any of a huge number of external factors as well. You carry in your physical body the potential for an infinite variety of stress and movement patterns, inhibitions and limitations, which depend for activation in very specific ways on stimulus and response. The implications are rather staggering. Dun, dun, dun. First, your physical structure as it is today is a reliable record of all aspects of all your levels of consciousness, from your first moment to now. The postures and movement patterns of your body reflect the areas in your life where you have internalized contradictions and conflicts, where you have unconsciously assigned eternal associations to elements that are in reality only temporarily or even only seemingly related. Or where you have imposed on yourself rules about not moving or not behaving in any particular way in response to any particular experience. Second, you can choose to change. Again, second, you can choose to change. First, your physical structure as it is today is a reliable record of all aspects of all your levels of consciousness from your first moment to now. Second, you can choose to change. You can develop the kinesthetic and proprioceptive perceptual skill to allow you to consciously recognize differing qualities of movement, the presence or absence of movement in different places in your body. If you're a dancer or a singer or any kind of artist, or if you're a cook or anyone who does anything physical, this should be especially intriguing to you. This was especially intriguing to me. With the body's map, you can acknowledge the origin or content of those variations and patterns in movement. And you can choose to make the movements you now refuse and improve the quality of your movements you now make with difficulty. Again, you can choose to make the movements you now refuse and improve the quality of the movements you now make with difficulty. No more than that, and the courage to explore is required. So not only are you experiencing all these levels of consciousness at once, your entire body is this like reliable map that's been just logging all of your experiences from day one. Whether or not you're aware of them acutely or precisely at any given moment is another story, as we're constantly experiencing all these different levels of consciousness, and our awareness is choosing to pay attention to certain ones is another story. But your physical structure, as it is today, is a reliable record of all aspects of all your levels of consciousness from your first moment to now. Your body's just logging all this stuff, creating patterns that you choose to follow, or restricting movements using contradictions or conflicts in your body, preventing you from moving in certain ways due to previous experiences or whatever have you in your life. But the freaking crazy thing is that you can choose to change. All these books are like, you're born that way. Anyone who disagrees with you, they don't deserve the energy in your life. You go, guy, you go, girl. You're perfect. You're perfect in the still state that you are, and anything that distracts from that or anything that disagrees with that is wrong. Instead, it's like everything you've experienced is in your body. But the cool thing is that you can choose to change it. Yes, you are locked into this design in which your body is just a reliable record of all aspects of your life, but that includes all the contradictions and conflicts in your life. But fear not, you are not perfect for being still in that state in which, well, if you don't move that way, well, other people can go suck it. No, you can choose to change. It is also part of your body's design to have the ability to change. So this book's gonna give you like the hard truth, but then also the good news. Hard truth is that, yeah, your body, well, first of all, it is kind of miraculous. Your body is this record of all aspects of all of your levels of consciousness, all activating and contradicting or harmonizing with itself in order to do what you do. So you are what you are. You are this body that you were in, and it's keeping this record of all these levels of consciousness that you've experienced, and it's creating patterns for you that work for you, and it's creating patterns for you that work against you. And this is all true. However, you can also change, and that is also part of your design. You are built to do so. All those things are happening to you at the same time. It could be overwhelming, but you are built to learn how to navigate them. You are built to learn how to express the ones that you want and then confront but not express the other ones that you don't want. You were designed to be able to change into moving into ways that you used to not be able to move, into thinking ways that you used to not be able to think. Movements that you used to have difficulty making, you can improve the quality of those movements, which would improve the quality of your thinking, your emotional states, your ability to move from one emotional state to the other. You know how you ever been stuck in just like being resentful or stuck in being frustrated or stuck in being annoyed and you can't move out of that. You don't feel free to move out of that emotional state. You were designed to be able to do so at will. You were designed to you are designed to approach ever closer and ever closer towards freedom from any one mental state, any one emotional state. Although your body is designed to keep you locked in those patterns, you are also designed to be able to explore those, and all it takes is the willingness and courage to do so. The choice to make movements that you used to refuse, the choice to improve the quality of movements you used to have with difficulty, the choice to change those movements, and then the courage to explore is all that's required. Every map, reading from the book again, every map, any map, describes sites, functions, and patterns against a background. The body's map of consciousness is built into you as a primary source of data as you seek to explore your purposes on Earth. The background is your consciousness. The sites are different locations on or in your physical structure. The many kinds of vibrational associations within your entire system are the functions in the body's map of consciousness, and the patterns are discernible links between sites and functions. The vocabulary for now we'll revisit, but for now the focus just being on the breadth of topics on your body right now. Just the sheer amount of levels of consciousness that you're experiencing, add on to that, not just the mental, physical, emotional, and not just fragmenting your conscious experience into bodies, parts, states, vibrations, and fields, but even down to the distinct body parts. Any part on your physical structure that is distinct from another part is associated with a specific number or a specific type of consciousness. From your left first index knuckle to the lateral collateral ligament of your right knee, your duodenum, your third cervical vertebrae, you name it, anything on your body. Your right elbow, from your left elbow, your ligaments to your nerves, any part of your physical structure distinct from another part of your body is associated with a different part of your consciousness. How could that be? Although yet it feels so real. How could it be though? Could it just be ordained from the skies? Or does it happen naturally? Do we become humans because of this? Do we become what we know as our consciousness because of these different locations of our body reacting to the different stimuli of the world and on different levels of consciousness? Did we gain our consciousness because of our body being able to do this, or because our body's designed and built to experience these different levels of consciousness on the different parts of our physical structure? Is that why we reached our consciousness? Or did we reach our consciousness and it also just happens that our body is this way, experiencing all these at the same time, but our awareness being on specific parts? Whether it's this way or that way, I think you might agree with me in acknowledging that it's like overwhelming how many records are on your body. I remember I was just sucked in just by the thought of like, oh wow, as we discussed last week, oh wow, our bodies are not symmetrical. But I remember reading this and thinking, every part of the body? Like every part of the body? The video, like, okay, there you go. Like every part of the body, every part of your physical structure that's distinct from another part of your body is associated with a different part of your consciousness, has a distinct association with one or more specific other levels of consciousness, which are all continuously operating, and yet seems to intuitively make sense. It seems to intuitively make sense. Instinctively, as a dancer, you might be thinking about how you isolate different parts of your body, and how sometimes when you isolate some parts of your body from the rest of it, sometimes it's difficult depending on the body part that you're using. Sometimes some people have an easier time isolating their right arm from their left arm. Even when it comes to elbows, and we look at our bodies in the mirror sometimes and we're like, I'm not getting that exact angle that it looks like for this other person. How come? In any walk of life, but especially any walk of life that seems to be acutely aware of aesthetics, it might be like me. You might be like me, thinking like, I knew there was something more to the body. I knew there was something more if the body can choose to hold out different positions or shapes of itself, but other people can seem to do so more naturally than others, or can seem to do so in more aesthetically pleasing way than others. Why is that? How could that be? Maybe the body itself has much more to it than I thought. If any of this sounds intriguing to you, stay tuned. We hope you'll return for another episode here on Pagawan. Thank you for being here. Hope you had as much fun as I did. Hope you learned something as much as I did. Does that make sense? Learn something as much as I do every time I reread this book. And definitely the first time I reread it. And this is definitely the first time I read it. This is only the introduction, which in most books I skip the introduction. As it's just like shout outs. This introduction goes deep into talking about how the body is mysterious, or the body's map is wonderful yet not mysterious. There's like a roadmap that seems kind of interesting to follow. And if nothing else, I found myself just extremely intrigued by all of this. Let's humor it for a little bit. If any of this sounds intriguing to you, I know out there might be some. If any of this sounds intriguing to you, we'll see you again tomorrow on tomorrow is Tuesday, so it's a True Love Tuesday. We'll be revisiting more of these body concepts from the Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1 Movement by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, Julie J. Nichols. We'll be revisiting these concepts constantly on Padawan, as a lot of these body integration ideas are fundamental to what we talk about. But specifically on Mover Monday, we went ahead and we go ahead and read from the book directly. We'll talk more in detail next Monday. But rest assured, we shall be revisiting these topics constantly. Thank you so much for being here. Thank yourself. I hope you have been feeling fantastic, staying aware wherever you are at, pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. If you would say it with me, pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Again, one more time, say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily. It's simply allowing your body to observe its sense of self as you pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Every part of every level of consciousness of your body, every level of consciousness in your conscious experience is reacting to stimuli all the time, at all levels in your physical structure, at all times. At all times, which is mind-blowing. At all times. How does that make you feel? Let us know in the comments if this feels intuitive to you, if it feels foreign. We allow ourselves to slow down. Let us know how it feels for you. If this is striking to you, if it's intriguing, or perhaps you're like, next topic. Either way, thank you for being here. Please like, share, subscribe. Do it or else. And we'll see you here tomorrow on True Love Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. This has been a Mover Monday here on the Best Feeling Network, the Best Feeling Podcast, your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. This has been Pal Gawan. Thank you.